Welcome to the Seahawks podcast. I am your co-host, Adam Emmert. I'm joined today by my good friend, Clinton Bonner. We're going to talk a little bit of what happened yesterday in day 6 of training camp with a little mystery. I think that's going to be fun. Clinton, we've been doing a lot of content, a lot of things coming out here over the last couple days. Anything that we put out that has really caught your eye, maybe more than something else?
Oh, for sure. Well, there's been great stuff, right? As the Seahawks heat up, so have we at the Seahawkers podcast. So we've got content going on For the Hawkera from the Believe Network podcast. So go subscribe on audio there. Of course, on YouTube, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. We'd love the likes. We'd love the subscribes. It definitely helps. Easy and free way to promote. But yeah, man, you guys just got done with your Know Your Rivals series where you really dug into the 49ers for about a good hour there. You and Brandon, Adam. I really enjoyed that, man. I got to be honest. I was at the gym, pumping some iron, and I was getting pumped up, and my Hawker was freaking flying because you and Brandon were bringing the heat and also some facts, logic, and reason why the stupid 49ers might be in a little cruising for a bruising this year. And let's not just etch them into the Super Bowl. I really liked your guys' takes on that stuff.
Yeah, it was fun to do. And both Brendan and I, we brought facts, logic, and reason. We brought a lot of energy. We also brought a ton of sports hate for the 49ers. So it's certainly biased and homery. But one of the things that kind of stuck out is just their failures in big games. And a lot of that comes down to situational football, Clinton. And one of the things Mike Macdonald introduced here yesterday was the mystery situation. I don't know how much you'd heard about that.
Yeah, careful. That might be spicy. I'm not sure it is. It might be. It's a mystery box. No, the thing is, I saw your text. I saw that there was some discussion about this mystery thing, mystery box out on Twitter, a little guess who situation, but I didn't understand what was going on. So I was like, all right, you want to talk about this? Let's get on. I like the intrigue of figuring out, well, what is so special about this mystery situation and that Mike Macdonald and crew have been cooking over at the VMAC, man.
Yeah, so mystery situation. This is Mike Macdonald diving into situational football, right? And so this could be all of the oddball things that can pop up throughout a game that usually are the difference between winning and losing in many cases.
Okay.
Situational football is what Bill Belichick and the Patriots just dominated at for decades, right? It's what really separated them in many ways. I mean, shoot, they have a Super Bowl ring that should be ours because of situational football. I mean, you think about that final drive as much as we don't want to think about it. Yeah. When Googling situational football, an article from Tim Curhan popped up interviewing Belichick about situational football. And to give you an idea of how important it is, Belichick gave like paragraphs of answers to this question about,
and in like dog years, right? Like every word Belichick gives you is basically like 700 words. It's a dog year type math thing because we know he's a fan of brevity and not sharing too much with the media. So what you're saying is this one really pressed the right buttons that got him waxing poetic.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of the most important things that a team can be good at in terms of overall success each and every year. And so when I hear something like this gets my little nerdy football juices flowing. Like this is the type of stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a difference maker. So to give you an idea of what it's about, this is a paragraph from Brady Henderson's article from the Tacoma News Tribune. And it goes, Tuesday, he introduced a new session in practice he calls, quote, mystery situation. Assistant head coach Leslie Frazier picks a game situation. For example, 3rd and 8, 4th down, goal to go, 10 seconds left and no timeout, down 4 points, etc. And yells it out to Macdonald, Grubb, and the players. They have the 40 seconds of the normal play clock to call a play for that unexpected situation. The players have less than that time to relay the calls and get in the correct position for the correct scheme for that situation that just got sprung on them. And so the idea being is that I'm unclear on whether this is like a portion of practice that they do this or if throughout team activities, all of a sudden, boom, mystery situation, which I think might be more effective if they did it that way. I'm not sure which way it is, but the idea being is to keep everybody on their toes and to really mimic the live bullet situation of, oh my gosh, we're at the goal line with 30 seconds left in the Super Bowl and Belichick hasn't called timeout. and we only have one timeout left because we wasted one earlier in the drive, as Pete Carroll always seemed to do. And now what do we do? And I think that this is the type of stuff that is next level, because we saw Pete do sudden changes in practice, right? That's what he would call just turnovers, basically. And all of a sudden you'd have to scramble and get your poop in a group and, make that sudden change. This is another level to that, where not even McDonald and Grubb know what's coming their way either. So it helps train them up at the same time, and along with the players, and then truncating it to the actual time that you would have during a game.
Yes.
All of that fires me up. I think this is an excellent way to prepare.
Yeah. So this is okay. Great. Awesome explanation. I had zero idea. Again, I just heard what it was, but without getting any of the context as to what it meant. I know what the words mean, like in English. I know what mystery means. I know what situation means. But in the football context of Mike Macdonald's team, had no idea what was happening at the VMAX. So this is intriguing. Now, the piece you brought up of like, hey, is it a planned part of practice where it's like, okay, we're going to do these drills and bag drills, and then we're doing mystery situation? Or is it at any time Leslie Frazier could call something out and we're on? I do wonder that part, because that actually does make it that much more, cool and interesting. Of course, you got to wait for the right situation to be in a mystery situation, because you're not going to emulate a goal to goal from the 50 per se, right? So that is super, super cool. But I love the idea. First of all, I love the idea that it's like Leslie Frazier's to go do. Like, I love that. There's something about that's kind of fun, that you could just, because why is that fun, right? For me, it's like, that is those dudes either sitting up having a beer or two, or having like a 5:30 a.m. coffee and being like, hey, Leslie, come in here. I got something to talk to you about, and he brought it to Mike Macdonald and said, hey, I've seen this be effective before. So that'd be really cool. When they talked about it, I have two questions. I want to understand what kind of situations they did get into, and did they give any of the origin as to what coaching tree or what coach did this come from?
Yeah, from the best that I could understand is it came straight from Mike. And it was interesting, listening to his presser. He brought up the mystery situation kind of almost as a off the cuff comment. And whichever reporter had been asking him the question that he was answering, circled back and like tried to get him to talk about it a little bit more. And he was just like, oh yeah, we're just kind of doing it. And then, asked one of the players kind of the same thing. The one thing that I did read, and I couldn't seem to find it again, was apparently one of the places that they did it, they got the offense down close to the goal line, is first and goal with however much time, one timeout, and went pass, all incomplete, and ended up not scoring. But it's the idea of getting your guys ready to go and have the mental flexibility, and then just a baseline of communication between the play callers, the coach, and the players in that situation, to know exactly the right communication for that moment, what you usually like to do in those sort of situations. And they're all endless, and they're all a little bit different depending on, is it raining in that game? Like, what's the momentum, and all of those things that go into it. And one of Belichick's quotes from that article I mentioned from Tom Curran was basically, hey, you might not get right. You may still get it wrong, but at least you have a baseline that you're working from that speeds everything up. So you eliminate at least the miscommunication. Your idea of how to handle it might be wrong, but at least everybody's on the same page going into the situation.
Well, it's interesting also, like, for a decade of having Russell Wilson be our quarterback too, there was a lot of times where we were frustrated Seahawks fans, where he was usually got it off, usually without a penalty, but like to the point where the defensive players knew exactly when to go, because it was either they're snapping the ball or they're taking a 5-yard penalty. And there would always seem to be a bit of a little lag, like an old school, something's buffering still to get the comms to be a bit smoother. And the last 2 years, we have seen that change with Geno Smith, and maybe it's also Waldron and, the combination there for sure. But Geno was at the helm and at the line a lot earlier and had a lot of time to look around, survey, audible, change some things up. So, and again, to your point also, it is that practice under fire, practice under the most mimicked situation you possibly can do, so that the parts before the play execution, they become familiar, they become automatic for you, right? So when you get to that situation in a real game, the idea, of course, is, hey, that first third or whatever that is, that communication, getting the right play and getting your players in and being crisp about that, that should be really automatic for you and really familiar for you. And then, hey, athletes, go execute, do your thing and do your job. Another Belichick-ism, but that's very interesting. And for me too, one thing that comes up for me, Adam, is we talked about when Macdonald came over, that like one of my takes was, hey, I think Macdonald is going to be a heck of a lot further away from Carroll than he is further away from Carroll, and much closer to the Harbaugh / Belichick, the way he would rule, the way he would go about things like this. So it's not a shock to me that this is coming with Macdonald, but I think it's another breadcrumb, another piece of evidence that's like, yeah, he's really more dialed into like that level of detail and that level of execution. And you always heard it last year, dude. It's like, if you talk to anybody watching the Ravens or players that would play them and coaches and say, what do you think about the Ravens? The one thing they would say over and over and over again is like, that is one prepared team. Like, they are prepared for whatever it is, they are prepared. So I think it's a really cool little microcosm into the mind and probably the heart of Macdonald, man.
Oh, you betcha. And when the coaches are all on the same page and in alignment, before the situation pops up, they get the call in quicker. Players get the call quicker. Players practice the situation a ton. And I know lots of teams practice situational football. There's no doubt about it. This was just a new wrinkle on how to get it done. And I really like the surprise factor and the time element that they put into it to really kind of put the screws to everybody and get them ready for these very pivotal moments. Like, often these are the things that a lot of these NFL games come down to, because the teams are all relatively equal. All the athletes are excellent. Like, physically speaking, there's not a gigantic difference between the best player in the league and the worst, like that, in comparison to college or high school or, anything like that. So it comes down to the mentals and what to do in clutch moments. And this was just an awesome example that I wanted to take just a couple of minutes and highlight, because, obviously the last time you and I talked, Clinton, we talked about Grubb's interview a little bit. It frustrated me in some ways. And also I wanted to bring some positivity to the table as well, because I've been fired up about the Mike hire, and this is going to help Grubb too. Like, a guy that hasn't been in the league, now he's got at least some reps at what it's like with live bullets and everything is kind of crashing down around you, and you're trying to figure out what to do in crunch time. These are the moments that we kill coaches on on Monday morning quarterbacking, right? When, Nathaniel Hackett decides to kick a 60-odd some yard field goal week 1 and lose to the Seahawks, right? And all of a sudden their whole season was a spiral downward after that. So
that was glorious. I love glorious memory. I love it very much. And the juxtaposition of like, hey, Macdonald's preparing this way, while you and Brandon just did a flagship on the Know Your Rival series about the stupid 49ers. And as Macdonald prepares this way, they got a coach who went into overtime in the Super Bowl and didn't know the rules. So look, we could pay attention to what you want to pay attention to. And the 49ers fans, you could say whatever you want about almost getting there. It's like, yeah, you almost got there and you haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. And your coach blew another lead and lost in overtime and did not know the freaking rules going into the coin toss for overtime. So advantage us, advantage Mike Macdonald, advantage Seahawks. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Careful, that might be spicy. I'm not sure it is. It might be. It's a mystery box.